So the good news is you've heard all the bad stuff. You've heard all the complicated stuff. We made Ari talk about that, so now I get to talk about all the good stuff. So what happens if today I'm healthy, I'm still relatively young? I mean, I still think I'm young. I have teenagers, so of course they think I'm ancient, but that's another story. But what can I do now today? And this is, again, as we mentioned, Ari was talking about crisis planning, so don't worry about that right now. It's important to understand those crisis rules, but what we're doing now is we're pre-planning. So how can I, and I hope that applies to most of you in the room today. So what can I do now today to protect myself, to protect my retirement, for myself, and if we're married, of course, for a spouse as well, and then to we hope, pass our assets on down to children and grandchildren. Because I don't know about you folks, but everyone that I talk to, they say, I would rather, for instance, I'd rather help pay for a grandchild's education than to see the money go to a nursing home. So that's what we're talking about now, is how do we do that? So gifting. You heard from Ari why under the Medicaid rules gifting is a bad idea. But what we're talking about here is really just common sense. What if that child or grandchild is too young? And oftentimes when it comes to money, you may have someone like this in your family. Many people do. When it comes to money, some people are always too young, right? I met with a fella recently, and we set up a trust for him. His kids were going to get money under the trust. I said, okay, so when the kids get this money from the trust, how old do you want them to be? He said 60. So extreme example, but you get the point. Because what happens if you pick let's say, the good child? What if later, it's fine when you give them the money, and we're not talking about $500 for Christmas here. What if you give them, let's say your savings are, you've got $200,000, you don't want to deal with all these Medicaid rules, I'll just give the money to my daughter. Well, like I say, even if she's the good child, if you're not worried about her financially, what if later on she runs into creditor problems? Things happen like that all the time. Someone loses a job, there's a bankruptcy, whatever it may be in this economy. Divorce is a huge one that we see all the time. The statistics now say that actually over 50% of marriages end in divorce. Okay, so we give our daughter our life savings to look after because we don't want to deal with Medicaid. There's $200,000, she gets divorced. Now the ex-son-in-law says, thank you very much. In addition to all the marital assets, I'll have half of the money that mom and dad gave you as well. So divorce is a big one there. Of course, we don't know, we hope not. Drug, alcohol problems, of course, we never hope that, but we don't know what the future holds. So what other steps are there to consider? Well, our estate planning needs to be brought up to date to meet with everything that Ari talked about. The DRA, the Deficit Reduction Act, if we're planning for a veteran, to make sure that we're complying with those VA eligibility rules. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here now, very common examples, and don't be surprised if they apply to you. They are, as I say, very common.